You were never truly free, and yet you've never been fully bound. This contradiction, this impossible paradox, has haunted mystics, philosophers, and seekers for thousands of years. And tonight, you'll see why the answer isn't either or, it's both. Because according to Hermetic philosophy, your life isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. And if you stay with me, if you follow the spiral inward, by the end of this story, you may see the truth that most people never dare to face. Not because it's too complicated, but because it's too confronting. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were being pulled toward a decision long before you made it? Have you ever had a moment where you chose, but deep down it felt like the choice had already been made? Like some invisible thread tugged at your will, shaped your path, and whispered a pattern too ancient to name? That's not random, that's hermetic. And if you've ever wondered what free will really is, if you are the master of your fate or just a puppet dancing through a script, you need to hear what the ancient hermeticists believed. Because their answer is not what you think. It's not comforting. It's not fatalistic. It's radical. In this video, we're not just going to talk about destiny. We're going to dismantle it. We're going to reveal how the forces that move you, karma, planetary energies, ancestral echoes, don't remove your freedom. They reveal its actual shape, and you'll see how the illusion of choice is not the enemy of fate, but its mirror. Later in part 4, we'll decode what "as above, so below" really means for your choices. In part 6, you'll hear how one ancient initiate broke a generational curse, not by rejecting his destiny, but by walking into it eyes open. And by the time we reach the end, you'll understand how the true self can only be found by dissolving the very question itself. But none of that matters if you don't start here, if you don't accept that most of what you think is freedom is just unconscious repetition. Because free will isn't freedom from influence, it's awareness of influence. So take a breath, let the noise fade, and listen not just with your ears, but with the part of you that's older than the body you're in. If this part stirred something ancient inside you, comment, "I remember the thread," and like this video if you're ready to see the truth that lies beyond choice. Most people think free will means I can choose whatever I want. But the Hermeticists saw through that illusion. They knew something most modern minds avoid. You don't choose from a blank canvas. You choose from a palette that's already been mixed. Your desires, your fears, your habits, your instincts, none of them are truly yours. They are the result of conditioning, karma, planetary influence, ancestral memory, and soul imprint. So when you say, "I chose," what part of you actually did the choosing? This is why the Kybalion, the cornerstone text of Hermetic philosophy, begins not with freedom, but with the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. Everything you experience, including the idea of yourself as a chooser, is happening inside a vast field of mind. And within that mind are laws, unbreakable, invisible, ancient laws, rhythm, polarity, cause and effect. These laws don't imprison you. They define the boundaries of the playground. And until you know the rules, your freedom is only apparent. You are not the player, you are the piece. But here's the twist. The more you become aware of the laws, the more you can align with them. And when alignment deepens, choice expands. It's like learning to sail. The winds don't stop blowing because you want calm. But once you understand the wind, the current, the tide, you stop being tossed. You start navigating. This is the Hermetic view of freedom, not rebellion against fate, but intelligent participation in it. So the question isn't, Do I have free will or not? The question is, at what level of consciousness am I choosing? A man asleep at the wheel may think he's steering until the crash wakes him, but the Hermetic path is the awakening before impact. In Part 3, we'll explore the 7 Hermetic laws and how they form the latticework beneath your life's decisions. We'll also look at how your fate is not a sentence, but a symbol waiting to be decoded. And once you learn to read it, you'll see how even your suffering has a direction. If this part helped you feel the hidden mechanics beneath your so-called freedom, comment, "I see the structure now." And if you want to dive deeper, don't forget to like, because the spiral only unfolds if you walk it. The Hermeticists didn't guess at reality, they mapped it. And at the heart of that map were 7 laws, timeless, invisible, unshakable, not rules in the moral sense, but structural forces, the blueprints behind the visible world. To them, fate wasn't a mystery, it was a mechanism, and free will, a lever within that mechanism, one that only becomes usable when you understand where it fits. Let's walk through these laws, not to memorize, but to feel. The first is mentalism. All is mind. Reality is a projection of a higher thought. What you call the world is occurring inside a living, thinking field. Then comes correspondence. As above, so below. What happens in the stars is echoed in the cells. What unfolds in your emotions is mirrored in events. Nothing is isolated. Everything reflects. Next, vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Energy, thought, matter, they're not different, just different speeds of vibration. Then polarity. Everything has an opposite, but both poles are part of the same essence. Love and hate, light and shadow. You don't escape one by avoiding it. You integrate by understanding both. Rhythm. The pendulum swings. Cycles govern everything, from your breath to the rise and fall of civilizations. What rises must fall. What falls will rise. Cause and effect. Nothing happens without a cause. Chance is just a name for laws not yet seen. You are not unlucky. You are unaware. And finally, gender. Everything contains masculine and feminine forces. Not man and woman, but action and receptivity, push and pull, creation and gestation. Both live within you. Now pause. Look at your life. Look at your choices. How many were just reactions to a rhythm? How many were pulls from a polarity you couldn't name? The Hermeticist doesn't escape these laws. He learns to move with them. And that movement, that intelligent participation, is the real will. So when someone asks, do we have free will, or is everything destined? The Hermetic response is simple. You have will, but only in proportion to your awareness. You are fated to sleep until you choose to wake. And then what was once called destiny becomes design. In Part 4, we'll decode how planetary forces shape your inner life and why as above, so below isn't poetry, it's physics. And we'll examine one ancient technique to step out of unconscious fate and into conscious direction. But first, sit with this. You are not outside the pattern. You are the pattern recognizing itself. If this part illuminated the hidden order within your chaos, comment, I move with the laws, and don't forget to like the video because resonance brings reflection, and reflection deepens will. As above, so below. You've heard it, maybe as a quote on a poster, maybe as a mystical catchphrase, but you've probably never felt what it actually means. Hermeticism teaches that reality is not a hierarchy, it's a mirror. The cosmos is not something out there, it's in you, not metaphorically, mechanically. The position of planets, the rhythm of moons, the cycles of stars, these aren't distant spectacles. They are vibrational signatures that resonate through your nervous system, your thoughts, your instincts, not because you're weak, but because you're wired into the field. You are a microcosm inside a macrocosm, and here's what that means for free will. You're not just responding to your past, you're responding to cosmic rhythm, the very timing of your choices, the intensity of your desires, the patterns you repeat. They pulse in time with something far older than you. But, and this is everything, awareness shifts the equation. A man born into a storm may think he is doomed to drown, but the sailor who understands the tide, the current, the stars, he doesn't fear the storm. He uses it. This is why Hermeticism never asks you to reject the influence of the heavens. It asks you to become conscious of your relationship to them. The planets don't control you, they influence you. And the more unconscious you are, the more you mistake influence for destiny. Imagine a person born during a Saturn-Pluto conjunction. The chart shows intensity, limitation, pressure, transformation. They grow up feeling caged, pushed, reborn again and again. This is my fate, they think. Pain is my path. But what if that person studied the sky, not to escape it, but to cooperate with it? What if they aligned their choices with what was already humming beneath their skin? Suddenly, pain becomes purification, limitation becomes structure, death becomes mastery. The map never changed, the navigator did. This is as above, so below, not surrender, not rebellion, alignment. In Part 5, we'll explore the role of karma through the Hermetic lens, not as punishment, but as programming, and how your ancestral wounds might be influencing decisions you think are your own. But for now, ask yourself this: am I fighting the current or learning to sail? If this part helped you see how the cosmos echoes through your will, comment, "I align with the rhythm," and like this video to bring more seekers into the current, because truth is frequency, and frequency spreads. Most people think of karma as punishment. Do good, get good. Do bad, suffer. But the Hermeticists saw karma not as justice, but as programming. Your soul is not blank when you arrive here. It carries memory, not just of what happened, but of what it believed. Beliefs create patterns. Patterns create behavior. Behavior creates outcome. And the cycle continues, not because you deserve it, but because you haven't yet disrupted the code. Karma, then, is momentum. It's the echo of unfinished thought. It's the inertia of identity. And it lives in more than just your soul. It lives in your bloodline, your name, your posture, your reactions, that moment you flinch at affection, that distrust of ease, that hunger for approval that never seems to end. It might not be yours. It might be your mother's, or your grandfather's, or an entire ancestral line echoing through you like a rhythm waiting to resolve. Hermetic teachings understood this long before science had language for it. They didn't call it trauma, they called it residue, imprints on the subtle body. Energetic architecture carried lifetime to lifetime. And here's the key: karma isn't broken by apology. It's dissolved by awareness. Not because awareness fixes the past, but because it no longer repeats it unconsciously. This is where free will becomes sacred, the moment you witness a pattern that isn't yours and choose not to carry it forward, not through force, through refusal. You stop blaming your childhood, you stop echoing your ancestors, you stop obeying ghosts, and in that pause, the spiral cracks open, fate softens, new pathways emerge. You're still in the system, but you're no longer playing the same script. In Part 6, we'll meet an ancient Hermetic adept who shattered his family's karmic loop not by escaping it, but by fulfilling it consciously. You'll also see how karma isn't always about suffering. Sometimes it's about unlocking buried genius. But for now, ask yourself, whose rhythm am I dancing to? And when will I choose to lead? If this part made you feel the weight and the power of inherited energy, comment, I witnessed the pattern, and like this video if you're ready to turn unconscious karma into conscious choice. There's a story, half history, half myth, of a Hermetic adept named Horam, who lived in Alexandria during the late Ptolemaic period. He was born into a bloodline of power and destruction. His father was a merchant who rose fast and fell hard. His mother, the daughter of a temple priest, silenced by shame after being cast out. Every ancestor carried ambition, fire, and collapse. By the time Horam was 17, he'd already lost everything twice. Wealth, friends, lovers, they came and vanished like breath in glass. He asked his teacher, an old mystic named Kanor, "Why does it all keep breaking?" Kanor didn't offer comfort. He handed him a bronze mirror and said, "Until you face what you are repeating, life will echo louder." Horam began to meditate, not to escape, but to listen. And what he discovered wasn't a demon, it was a rhythm. Every few years he would rise, attract power, trust the wrong voice, overreach, and fall. Not because he was cursed, because he was tuned to a script. Kanor called it karmic harmonics, a vibrational song passed through blood and breath, not punishment, just programming. But here's where everything shifted. Instead of resisting the next rise, Horam leaned in, consciously. He built wealth not for power, but to test detachment. He entered love not for possession, but to refine devotion. He walked into betrayal, not blind, but awake. And when the collapse came, because it still came, he stood in the center of the wreckage, unmoved. The wave passed, but it didn't pull him under. He had fulfilled the karma by refusing to be unconscious inside it. That's the Hermetic way, not to break the pattern, but to complete it, on purpose. And once the cycle is fulfilled, it dissolves. Horam would later become a teacher himself, guiding others not toward escape, but mastery. This isn't legend to be admired, it's instruction to be lived. Because somewhere inside your chaos is a pattern, and somewhere inside that pattern is your freedom. In part 7, we'll break down a modern technique based on Hermetic principles that lets you identify your core karmic loop using only 3 moments from your life. And once you see it clearly, everything changes. But until then, ask yourself this. What would it look like to go through the storm and stay dry inside? If this part awakens something in you, comment, I choose conscious completion. And like this video if you believe karma isn't punishment, it's a call to mastery. What if 3 memories could decode your karma? Not hundreds, not lifetimes, just 3 moments that keep repeating, under new disguises, in new costumes, but always echoing the same emotional signature. The Hermeticists believed that the soul writes in pattern, not in paragraphs, and that beneath every problem you think you have, there's one central loop, one vibrational knot that anchors the entire cycle. And once you see it clearly, it begins to lose power. Here's how the technique works. You won't find it in any modern coaching book, but it's been whispered in mystery schools for centuries. Step 1. Identify the echo. Close your eyes and find 3 moments in your life that carry the same emotional frequency. They don't need to be big or dramatic. A breakup, a failure, a rejection, a success that collapsed into nothing. Look not at the event, but at the feeling it left behind. Do they all taste like abandonment, like betrayal, like collapse after hope. Step 2. Name the pattern. Now imagine these 3 moments are notes in a chord. What's the chord? Not the event, not the people, the meaning you assigned. This always happens. I can't trust. I'm not safe. That's the loop. That's the program. Step 3. Reverse the charge. Now shift from victim to observer. Ask, what did I believe about myself in each of those moments? What decision did I make about the world based on those events? Then ask, what would someone who wasn't carrying that belief have done differently? You're not looking for blame. You're looking for freedom, because the moment you realize the loop isn't fate, but perception, you begin to shift the signal. This is hermetic karmic work, not clearing through crystals, not begging the universe, but decoding the feedback. And when you start to shift your signal, you'll notice something strange. The world starts acting different. People respond to you in new ways. The same situations arise, but you respond, not react. And that response breaks the loop. This is the turning point, the place where unconscious rhythm ends and conscious will begins. In part 8, we'll explore the hermetic paradox of time, how past lives may be bleeding into your present, not from back then, but from a simultaneous field, and what that means for true choice. But before that, sit with this. You are not trapped in a pattern. You are trapped in a belief that the pattern is permanent. If this part gave you a glimpse of the hidden loop in your life, comment, I see the pattern, and like the video to help others find the moment where their karma turns into clarity. You think the past is behind you, that it happened, ended, and left only memory. But in Hermetic understanding, time is not a line, it's a field. Imagine this, every version of you that ever was, still is, not metaphorically, energetically. The 5-year-old you who cried in the dark, the 17-year-old who betrayed themselves for love, the 30-year-old who walked away from their truth. They're still active, still echoing, still shaping your present, unless you've integrated them. Hermeticism doesn't treat past lives as previous chapters. It treats them as concurrent frequencies. They're not behind you in a timeline. They're beneath you in a signal stack. This means the trauma you think is from childhood might be from a version of you born 3 centuries ago. It means the instinct you call intuition could be the memory of a death that didn't happen in this life, but feels just as real. Now ask yourself, if the past is still playing, what are you unconsciously reacting to? This is the hidden reason your willpower sometimes collapses. You're not just making choices now, you're navigating energetic debts from yourself to yourself. But here's the Hermetic twist. Just as the past can reach forward, the present can reach back. Consciousness isn't stuck in time, it's the tuner of time. When you sit in meditation, when you observe a pattern without judging it, when you speak directly to the part of you that still aches, you are time traveling. You are reaching across timelines with one question. What do you need to resolve so we can move forward together? This is how karmic healing happens, not by force, not by forgetting, but by integration. And the more integrated you become, the freer your will becomes, because you're no longer being pulled by echoes. You become the still point, the eye of your own storm. In part 9, we'll explore what Hermeticism says about fate itself, not as a sentence, but as a scaffolding, and how certain elements of your life might be scripted, not to trap you, but to wake you. But for now, ask yourself, what part of me still believes the past is over? If this part helped you feel the vibrational weight of time, comment, I listen across timelines and like this video to ripple that awareness forward, because the future listens when the past is heard. What if fate isn't your prison, but your teacher? We've all asked it. If I truly have free will, then why do some things feel inevitable? Why do you keep meeting the same type of person? Why do the same challenges rise just when you thought you were clear? Why does it feel like certain events were waiting for you long before you were ready? Hermetic philosophy doesn't deny fate, it redefines it. They taught that fate is not a trap, it's a scaffolding, a structure set in place before birth, not to limit you, but to shape the conditions in which free will becomes meaningful. Think of it like this. The stage is set, the cast is chosen, the opening scene is written, but how you play the role, that's yours. And here's the deeper key. Fate is the curriculum. Free will is how you respond to the lesson. You were meant to meet that betrayal, meant to face that loss, not because you're cursed, but because those events expose the beliefs you inherited and give you a chance to rewrite them. Hermetic adepts saw life as a divine classroom. Each soul signs up for a syllabus, not to suffer, but to refine. And karma, that's just the homework left undone from a previous session. When you see it this way, even your struggles become sacred. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin asking, what version of me is this experience trying to reveal? This shift is everything, because the moment you stop resisting fate, you can begin to shape it. This is the heart of Hermetic mastery. Fate gives you the field, will gives you the strategy, and together they birth wisdom. In part 10, the final part, we'll bring it all together: karma, time, destiny, and will. You'll learn what it truly means to live above the wheel, to step off the karmic loop and into creative authorship. But before we get there, pause and ask, what if this exact moment, reading this, reflecting now, was part of your fate? And what you choose to do next is the beginning of your freedom. If this part helped you see fate not as punishment but as invitation, comment, I meet my fate with will, and like this video if you're ready to step from reaction into authorship. You've now seen the architecture: karma as pattern, time as frequency, fate as framework, will as force. But here's the Hermetic truth that ties it all together. You are not just in the system, you are the one who observes it. This is what the ancients meant by stepping off the wheel, not escaping life, but mastering the spiral. When you realize that karma is a code, you stop reacting and start debugging. When you realize time is non-linear, you stop running from the past and start integrating it. When you realize fate is scaffolding, you stop fighting the script and begin improvising with genius. And when will finally awakens, you don't just respond, you create. This is what it means to be above the wheel, not a slave to mood, not a puppet of the past, not a victim of design, but a conscious composer, taking what's been given and rewriting it into something rare, because fate can only take you so far. After that, it waits. It waits for you to claim the seat at the center, the throne not of power, but of presence, the place where you stop asking, what's next for me, and start asking, what can I create from this? You've heard people say, you are the author of your life, but Hermeticism goes deeper. You are the author, and the pen, and the page. When you reach this awareness, life stops happening to you. It starts happening through you, and everything shifts. Your old wounds stop defining you. Your lineage stops controlling you. Your so-called fate becomes raw material, clay in your hands. You don't need to burn karma. You need to see it. You don't need to escape fate. You need to complete it. You don't need to find free will. You need to remember it was yours all along. So now the question isn't, am I free? The question is, am I willing to take responsibility for the script I've inherited and rewrite it? Because that moment, when knowledge becomes choice, that's when the soul begins to sing again. If this journey helped you reclaim your power, comment, I step off the wheel, and like this video to echo this truth into the collective, because the more of us who wake up from the program, the faster we reshape the dream.